Hey there, guys. So I wasn't going to talk about Tomi Lahren's rant. Everybody in the Red Pill community has made a video about it. Like, every single person that I watch has made a video about it. I was like, I do not need to say anything. It's been said. It's all been said, right? And then I started seeing people outside of the Red Pill community making videos about it. And at that point, I was like, well, I'm late to the party, but better late than never. So here goes. All right, right out of the gate, anybody who says something like that, who is not actively like being paid to teach classes, they sound really arrogant. So we're not getting off to a good start here. This might not be the most generous thing of me to say, but immediately when she says this, I think, okay, this is all your friends that you're drawing these experiences from, your own experiences and your friends. Are all your friends the same type of person? Are they all the same type of woman? Because if they're all having problems with men, that could just be as simple as they're all the same type of women. They all have the same attitudes about men. They all have the same beliefs about men. They all have the same beliefs about dating and how they should interact with men and how men should interact with them. You know, if you get a group of people who all believe the same thing about the other gender, they're going to have similar experiences with the other gender. That's one of the things that I've looked at the red pill community with and kind of been slightly concerned about. The red pill community has an incredible potential to become an echo chamber, because it's the same recycling of ideas. It's well, I mean, that's what an echo chamber is, but you have a lot of men with the same attitudes about women, the same experiences with women, the same negative background with women, and it's very easy to start going through that and getting to this point where you think, well, women are the problem. Sometimes women are the problem. A lot of times women are the problem. But it's not 100% thing, and you have to be willing to question what you've seen, what's occurred, why it occurred, whether there was anything that you did that you could change in the future so that it doesn't occur again, or if it does occur again, you won't get hit with it as badly, or at all, ideally. It's way too easy to look at it and say, well, all these people around me have experienced this, and not go outside that little sample size you've got. And I look at Tomi Lahren and her description of her friends, and she's saying they're attractive. Okay, well, I mean, she's attractive-ish, so I mean, yeah, I can see that. Like, she's she's younger than me, so she's definitely attractive. But I mean, but yeah, I mean, she's reasonably attractive. She's been reasonably attractive for many years. All her friends are successful. All of her friends have something going on. Well, are they career-driven people? Because there's a tendency for women who are very career-driven to have some problems when it comes to men that other women do not have. Well, guys, if you expect me to go on a lot about this particular quote, I'm probably not going to. I'm just going to wait to see what she has to say and what her definition of trash actually is, and we'll go from there. Dude, I wasn't even a single when my husband. Nobody's single. Don't count on single. Do you really want a guy who has absolutely no better options than you, and he's just sitting around on his thumb waiting for you to come along? Or does he have other options? Is he just actually like surveying the landscape and checking out to see what is out there, and he happens to spot you? Nobody is, and nobody can afford to be sitting around waiting. Waiting doesn't get anything accomplished. And if you have options, you're probably not going to be just waiting. She goes off on this little mini rant about how men need to make a plan, men need to kind of take some initiative, and they need to ask women out on actual physical dates. They need to take the next step. They need to be responsible for doing all this stuff. And I've been out of the dating market for like 10 years now. Like, I do not know what the young people are doing anymore, and I'm not one of the young people anymore, which is kind of painful, but whatever. When I was dancing, I was one of the dancers in a strip club. It creates a sort of a weird power dynamic where you're clearly a very desired commodity. You're the naked woman running around in a crowd of men. You're the desired commodity. And it became very clear to me very quickly that if I wanted to go hang out with a guy, I needed to make that obvious to him. I needed to be the one to say, hey, do you want to go hang out? The club is closing. I could use some food. Do you want some food? Hey, let's get a coffee. I love coffee. Let's chat. Let's just go hang out. Any number of hangout spots. Anything that comes to mind, just something. Because I was constantly trying to, get a better feel for these guys, see which one was, somewhere out there was a guy that had to sparkle for me. So I was just looking for that one. And, I would ask guys out. And it wasn't just because I need a free meal. Hey, I'm hungry, come feed me. It was, I want to get to know you a little bit better. And I want to hang out with you. And I'm in a strip club, so I realize that you're probably not going to ask me. And sometimes it's confidence issues with men, but sometimes it's just they go on the assumption that you already have a boyfriend. You are going to say no because there are like a million guys there. You're too high maintenance anyway. They don't need that kind of drama in their life. They got 1,000,001 reasons that they're not going to ask you out. So if you want to go out with a guy, ask. Say, hey, do you want to go out and get some coffee sometime? It's not hard. It makes the guy's life easier because he's probably considering asking you and weighing up whether or not he should, but he doesn't really know if he should. And, there's a bunch of things that guys have to consider with that sort of thing. So you, as the woman, could make his life incredibly easy by just saying, hey, let's go out and get a cup of coffee. Let's chat. It'll be fun. Not that difficult. I don't know if the men she's talking to are simply avoiding seeing her at all in person, or if she just expects them to be the ones to take the initiative. But we don't really live in that world anymore, and she's in a unique position where she is this, successful woman who's got stuff going on or whatever. They probably just look at it and say, she's probably already with somebody. She's probably already doing something. She's probably already busy. She talks about her schedule later, and so I'm going to assume that she's busy a lot. They probably just text her because they want to see her or talk to her or whatever, and she could just ask them out. Like, that's not a social taboo anymore. Like, maybe in our grandparents' days it was, but things have changed. Okay, this is kind of funny to me because my idea of the perfect date, and this is just me, my idea of the perfect date would be, getting off work, because back in those days I worked. I'm not anymore, but I would get off work, I'd be dead tired, I'd go home, take a shower, take off my makeup and all that fun stuff, curl up on the couch with, my husband. We had a lot of perfect dates. Curl up on the couch with my, at the time, boyfriend, and, watch some, we were both into sci-fi, so both still into sci-fi. We'd watch some sci-fi TV show and, with a really interesting, intricate plot, and I just kind of relax because I would be physically just dead tired. Like, it's kind of physically demanding work that I was doing. And that was my ideal date, no makeup, no crazy stuff, just comfortable. Just sitting down, curling up in front of a good movie, maybe making some popcorn or something, and just relaxing and being alive for a change. Like, just, that's my ideal date. That is my ideal date. Obviously, that's not everybody's ideal date. But the thing that really strikes me here, not so much the fact that her idea of an ideal date differs greatly from mine, the thing that strikes me is that it doesn't sound like she's putting a lot of effort into building a relationship with any of these men. Like, she's home, she's done. He didn't schedule in his little time slot with her. Most guys are not going to be, I personally don't think any guys are going to be interested in that. If you care about somebody, if you like somebody, if you want to spend time with somebody, you're not really going to want to schedule in a time slot with them. You're going to want to be a little bit impetuous. You're going You're going to look at it and maybe you got off work early that day, or maybe you didn't have to work that shift you thought you had to work. And it's going to be like, sweet. Hey, do you want to go hang out? And sometimes it's going to be like, oh man, I can't. I'm at my job. I can't because I have a doctor's appointment. I can't because, I have life reasons that I can't get around. But if it's always no because I'm having my me time, you know, I mean, obviously, if it's me, it's just like, oh, hey, I was just starting to watch my TV show. Come on over. I took off my makeup. I'm in my fuzzy pajamas. I look awful, but you're plenty welcome to come over. We'll make some popcorn. For her, I don't know how many people see her without her makeup on, but no, I mean, I just when do you relax? Like maybe she's talking about like first date, initial couple dates kind of stuff. But even then, I would understand like, hey, if you're texting me in the middle of the night, because I'd have guys text me at like 1 a.m. in the morning. It's like, I'm sleeping. It's like, oh, you're a dancer. You got to be awake. It's like, no, I'm sleeping, and I am dead tired. And don't call me at this hour again. Usually they were the guys that I didn't care about, because if it was a guy like my husband, all of a sudden it was like, wake up in a hurry, like, oh, hey, I'm so happy to hear from you. Like, excuse me if I'm slurring my texts here. I'm a little bit sleepy. I just woke up. Oh no, you didn't wake me up. I was totally awake for other reasons. Um, there's this effort you put in when you really, really want to be with a guy. And there's this effort that you put in when you want to build a relationship with anybody. If you're looking for a good guy and you're feeling out whether or not a guy is a good guy and trying to get a good judgment of him, and he looks exciting and he starts to look a little bit interesting, all of a sudden it's like, well, I was gonna sit down and watch a movie, but sure, I'll come out for a cup of coffee. That sounds cool. I can do that. It just sounds like she's got her set little way of doing things, and she doesn't want to deviate from that. She doesn't want to change anything to include a new person in her life. And if she doesn't want to change or bend or yield on her little routine, is she leaving a lot of room in her life for a new person to come in? Like, it just doesn't sound like it to me. When this rant first came out, there were just a ton of response videos that immediately followed it, and I saw, they started piling up in my suggested video box, like one after another after another. And one of the things that everybody was looking at and kind of pointing out was this statement right here. And a lot of guys were saying, well, feminism has affected every woman's thinking. Like, every woman is a feminist now, which I think is it's a little too absolute. It doesn't quite work out like that. But I think it is not terribly unreasonable to say that feminism has affected every woman's thinking. Feminism has trickled through our society enough that every woman is going to have little shards of feminist thinking inside of her mind. Little tiny things, little details, little bits and pieces. And I'll tell you, I'd be happy to tell you, how feminism has affected my thinking, because my mom was a feminist. She was I think second wave feminism, is it? She was a businesswoman. She had the little power suit and everything. She had the short haircut, very butch haircut. She was a businesswoman, and she thought she was tough. And honestly, I mean, she's survived cancer a couple times. She's got multiple sclerosis. She's still ticking away. I think she had a stroke at one point. She's been through a lot, and she's still going. So, I mean, she is kind of tough, actually. She's my mom. Of course, I find her intimidating, but actually, she's a really cool lady. She's a very sweet lady, and she really respects my dad. And that's the thing. Feminism might affect every woman's thinking, but that doesn't mean that every woman secretly hates men. My mom, she would go to the office or wherever, and she'd look at it and say, I can be just as tough as any man. I can do just as much as any man. I can work just as hard as any man, which was really unrealistic because physically she was this little tiny dinky woman. She was like 5'2". She was very tiny. She could not lift the same amount of weight as any man, but she really thought she could. She was one of those women. She was really, really tough. Tough was her big thing. She went home and she absolutely adored my dad. My dad was the leader, my mom was the follower, always. And that was their dynamic, and that's always been their dynamic. She didn't hate my dad. She didn't resent my dad's masculinity. She didn't try to, browbeat my dad into submission. My mom believed that my dad was the leader of our family, 100%. But when she was out in the business world, all of a sudden it was like, okay, I'm a dude and I'm gonna hang with the dudes and I'm gonna be a man. That was my mom, and that was my mom's version of feminism. And so I grew up with, this pressure to be a man. Be a man, hang out with the men, talk like the men, act like the men, be a man. And that was the pressure that was put on me growing up. So now that I'm an adult, it's like, okay, I don't resent men. I don't really have any problems with men. I genuinely like men, and I know Tomi Lahren in her little video says that she likes men. I actually do like men. Like, I enjoyed hanging out in a strip club, just chatting with men, hanging out with men, talking with men. Just watching men in their natural habitat, just being. It's fun. It's actually very pleasant. I don't have a lot of feminist ideas, or a lot of the more aggressive anti-male feminist ideas. But yeah, sure. That's fair. Feminism has definitely affected my thinking too. The question is, how does feminism affect your thinking? That's the important question. If feminism has made you believe that you need to work harder and you need to carry your own weight inside the family unit, well, that's really not going to negatively affect your relationship with your wife all that much. If feminism is telling you as a woman, like, I need to carry my own weight, and it's not 100% a feminist idea, I think. And I know a lot of guys who look at it, and whenever I say, well, women need to carry on their own weight, women need to have ambitions, women need to have pursuits, women need to have goals of their own to drive them forward, everybody looks at that and says, well, it's a feminist idea. Maybe it is a feminist idea. I'm sure it's prevalent in feminism. I don't think it's solely a feminist idea. You see it in the Bible. That's the reason I made that video about that psalm. But you also see it in so much of earlier points in human life. It wasn't just men who were responsible for gathering food. Men would go out and they'd hunt. That was the big thing. That was where you got your protein. That was the big deal. Man brings home a woolly mammoth that he and all the other men killed. That's a big deal. That's food to keep you guys alive. But women were gathering stuff. Women were contributing. Women were carrying their own weight. Yeah, they had the baby strapped into a little papoose or whatever, and they're carrying that around. But they're also gathering berries and picking herbs and all of the things that they're doing. They're all contributing. Everybody's carrying their own weight. This very recent idea that women are just these delicate little flowers who aren't supposed to work hard, and they're supposed to have these easy lives and not contribute anything substantial, it rubs me the wrong way. And maybe that's feminism, but it just seems like it shows up in a lot of other parts of human life. I do not think it is entirely natural to a human woman to simply be idle. She needs to have something to keep her busy. She needs to have something to keep her going. And either that something is going to be doing something productive and helping out the family, or it's going to be rumor mongering and being a crazy little busybody Karen, or it's going to be sleeping with the pool boy, or the gardener, or the mailman, or, whoever. You got to pick one of those things, because she's not going to be able to sit down and just be idle. Most women can't do that. They need to have something. So yeah, that's where feminism affected me, in case y'all were wondering. You probably weren't. How feminism has affected Tomi Lahren? Well, yeah, I'm not buying it. No, I don't think so. Okay, this is my favorite part of the video. Like, this chunk right here, there are so many things that she says that I just wish I could like elaborate on and respond to individually. It would take forever, so I'm not going to do that. But value. I can only assume when she says that she means that she is valuable, and that her friends who are so successful and brilliant and beautiful and wonderful are also valuable. And she's assuming that men don't fully appreciate their value. Like, like there's something wrong with men where they can't actually appreciate true value, like the kind of, I'm sorry, that is just so damn entitled. It's hilarious. I'm sorry. That's not a very charitable thing for me to say, but seriously, seriously, you think men are stupid? They can't recognize a valuable woman when they see one. They're just blind like that. How dumb do you think men are? How dumb do you think people are? People can tell a good potential sexual partner. People aren't blind. If they want you, they want you. If they don't want you, they don't want you. I love this statement here. I love it. Don't mix these other lesser women who don't have anything going on in their lives with women like me, quality women, good women, like better women. Um, Arrogant much, are we? Like seriously? I mean, I know that she would take a look at somebody like me and say, well, what is that? 21-year-old me, 23-year-old me, the me that my husband met and eventually married, she wouldn't understand, why are you attracted to that stripper? Because that stripper was 23 years old and hot and sexy, and she was willing to go hang out after she'd taken her makeup off, and she was willing to have a fun time on the spur of the moment because she did actually want to see the guy in question. Like, that's why. Oh, these women don't have anything going on. Yeah, they're actually willing to cancel their plans to go hang out with an attractive man. That's what not having anything going on means. But really, they're just a lesser quality. It's about quality. Oh man, like it sounds so narcissistic to me. I don't know if it's hitting anybody else that way, but I really, really love this quote here. I know it's like the very next sentence, but I think this is my favorite quote from the entire video so far. I could be wrong. We're not all the way through the video. I might find another one that I remember really loving, but this is really hilarious to me. Okay, so when I was a brand new baby dancer, when I first started out, I was 21. I turned 21. That was the lowest legal age you could dance in my hometown. So I went into the strip club the day after my 21st birthday. I asked them for a job right away. And it was this seedy, dingy, rundown, piece of shit little strip club in the middle of nowhere because that's where I lived. And all the dancers there, like all of the dancers there, at least at the time that I got hired, except maybe one, were in their mid 30s. Two of them, one of them was overweight. One of them was struggling with her weight, but not quite overweight. One of them was super skinny, but she'd had like 3 or 4 kids, and so her stomach just sort of hung off of her like a big kangaroo pouch. One of them One of them, I think, was about 28-ish, but she was a raging drug addict, so she was always really stoned out of her gourd. And if she wasn't stoned, she was drunk. Like she was, mumbling her words kind of drunk. One of them, I guess, she was in really great shape, but she was also a raging alcoholic. And I remember, like, one night she got drunk and they called me in to work for her shift because they had to, like, literally carry her off the stage because she just walked to the back of the stage, curled up into a little ball, and passed out in the middle of her set on stage. Those were the kinds of girls that I started out my career as an exotic dancer working with. So there I was 21. I was pretty hourglassy. I was just happy to be getting out and doing something other than sitting in the ambulance bay all day waiting for somebody to have a life-threatening emergency, because that gets really boring in a small town. Like there aren't enough people having emergencies to keep you busy in a small town ambulance. And so I was bored out of my mind, and I was happy to be around people again. That was a real thrill for me. And so I was always happy to be at work. I was always smiling, and they never smiled. Like, I don't know if any of them ever smiled. They always looked super bored all the time. And it took me forever to figure out that these chicks hated my guts. They hated me. Like, it didn't take me that long. I figured out they hated my guts. I didn't understand why. Like, why the hell did they hate me? Why were they always treating me like I was a stupid bimbo? Why were they always treating me like I didn't know what the fuck I was doing? Like, why were they always so so condescending and so spiteful and so mean all the time. And it took me forever to figure out that it was because I was 21. I was as young as you could be in a strip club. And I was earning about, on a night that I worked, and I wasn't working every night, but I was earning about anywhere from $250 to $350 a night, usually in the $300 range, just in tips on stage alone. I would go up on stage, and that stage would be completely papered. They would go up on stage, and they might make a couple dollars here, a couple dollars there. They'd go home at the end of the night with anywhere from 50 to 80 bucks. That was their earning range. Of course, they hated me. A couple of them were single mothers, a couple of them were divorced. And then there was one who just never married, as far as I could tell. They had every reason to completely hate me and resent me. And so I was one of those women in their world. Like, if you had Tomi Lahren take a look at 21-year-old me, she would say, oh, that girl's got nothing going on. That girl has no ambition. She's just stupid. No, I had plenty of ambition. I was a go-getter, too. I was working on an ambulance. I was doing my part to raise myself up out of the shit that I had found myself in when I hit adulthood. I was working for a future. I definitely had my head screwed on straight. I was definitely goal oriented. But I don't see a woman like that seeing that in me. She'd probably just see some dumb 21-year-old twit, because it's not at all whether or not the girl is smart or vapid. It's whether the girl is younger and hotter. That's what it really is about. It's not whether or not she's smart. It's not whether or not she's got any depth to her. It's not whether or not she's shallow. It's whether she's younger and hotter. Yep, it's all about those 21-year-olds. Hotter, younger women who are prettier and who are also willing to go out and see them and possibly adjust their schedules because those guys are attractive and they want to be with them. It's about the competition and not liking the competition. At the base of it all, I think that's what it is, and that's why she's so insulted that these guys would dare to consider the competition, because she's such high quality. And I mean, I'm not the only person who's pointed this out. Everybody who's made a video responding to her video seems to be pointing this out. But a lot of guys then look at it and say, all conservative, all tradcon women are like this. It's like, no, we're not. Tradcon women are not all like this. And I don't even mean in the NAWALT sense. I mean, this is a unique kind of situation where a woman has pretty well passed up on her best dating years, and it's starting to catch up with her. She's, I don't want to say hitting the wall, but maybe she's having her epiphany phase or whatever. I'm not too clear on what those are. I need to read the next Rollo Tomasi book. But she's realizing that the competition outguns her. And she's not happy about that. And she's supplied herself with this lovely idea that she's higher quality. She's better than those other women. That's what it all is. I was that younger woman once upon a time. I was that younger woman who was clearly outgunning all the competition. And I didn't even know we were competing. I was young and naive, and I was just going out there and doing my thing. And I had no idea why they all hated me so much. And it was because I had them beat. No wonder they hated me. But I right now, at this point in my life, I'm as old as they were then. Well, not quite. They were pretty old. I'm not quite as old as they were then. They were all bitter, but not every woman in her 30s is bitter. I met a young 20-something college student just a little while ago. And I remember looking at her and thinking, gosh, you are really pretty. You are way prettier than I am at this point in my life. I'm more in shape than you are, physically, like more fit. But you're still prettier. And so I was looking at her face like, why is that? I was curious. It was an intellectual curiosity. There was no emotional element to it. And I was really surprised by that, because I was sure that I would feel some sort of emotion over that. I really didn't. I didn't care. I did with the pretty what I needed to do with the pretty when I had the pretty. The pretty is gone now. I miss the pretty. It's kind of sad. It was fun when I had it. It's not entirely gone, but it's definitely not what it used to be. And that's okay. I did what I needed to do. I went out and I cashed in on it. I made a bunch of money off of it, which was fun and cool. It was a very great adventure, and I'm happy that I had it. I mean, I used the pretty to find a good husband. And the last years that I had, the years that I had that, Tomi Lahren is in right now, where she's having this rant, I was pregnant a lot. I spent a lot of time knocked up. I spent years of my life knocked up. And that was the end of the pretty. And it was really sad because the last thing you want to do with your pretty party years, the very final party years that you've got in your life, is waddle around fat as a heifer. But those were my most fertile years, and so I used them. And now I have my kids, and I have my husband, and my life is good, and I'm not jealous of younger women, and I'm not where this woman is. Do I have the capacity, or did I have the capacity to be like her? Maybe. But looking at her and saying, oh yes, all TradCon women are like this. No, we're not. No. Some of us are smart enough to get married in our early to mid-20s, and we're smart enough to invest ourselves in a decent, in a really good quality man. We get married, we start having kids, we do the TradCon thing, which it's looking like she just hasn't really done. That's a TradCon woman. This is a woman who appears to be a TradCon woman, but she hasn't done the TradCon thing. And from what she said about men, and we're going to get into that later on when she's talking about chasing men, or not chasing men, she doesn't seem to have a very TradCon mentality. She doesn't seem to have a very TradCon mindset when it comes to how you should interact with men. Should you invest yourself in a man? Should you invest yourself in building a relationship with a man? What happens when she gets married? I mean, she hasn't gotten married, that's kind of the point, but when you get married, you invest yourself in that relationship a lot. You put a lot into it. Is she going to do that? Does she seem in any way particularly motivated to do anything like that? She wants men to chase her, have a plan. She doesn't seem particularly driven to change anything about her own life for a man. How do you get married like that? You don't. You got to be willing to give as well as take. And I don't see her being a very giving kind of person in this. Hey folks, sorry about the change of scenery. I ran out of time, and so I had to switch rooms. I have this very narrow window where I film my videos in after I get the kids into bed and before my husband goes to bed. And so once that window runs out, I suddenly have to start playing musical chairs around the house to try and get my videos made. And so here we are. This is running way later than I thought it would, and I've been trying not to make it too long, but here goes. When I look at this quote, when I hear her say this, the thing that I can't quite get away from, the thing that keeps coming to mind, she keeps on talking about these Thotianas, like they're somehow less than she is, and people love to use that word thought to indicate that someone is lesser, and people use the word thought on me all the time. I honestly really like Thotiana. If I had known that was a phrase or a word, I don't know if she just made it up today. I just wish I had it, because I totally would have used that instead of oak leaves and onions. That would have been so fun. But I didn't, and it's too late now. Now I'm oak leaves and onions instead. But yeah, no, that's just absolutely lovely, because it's so damn condescending. And she really genuinely thinks that these girls who are out competing her, because they are out competing her, are somehow less than her. They don't have her quality. They're not as valuable. They're not as sophisticated as she is. And it's like, no, that's like, she's deluding herself. These women are people too. They're just not people like her. They're not her. That's really the only difference. Like, she's upset because these women are getting the attention that she wants from men, and she's not holding the same kind of attention from men that she used to. And I've experienced this a little bit. Like, I was watching her video and I was remembering, like, when I was about her age, I was about 27, 28-ish, about 28, I think. I had just gone through my second pregnancy. I was really scarred up from my first pregnancy because that ended up in abdominal surgery. So I had abdominal scars now, and I had stretch marks because the abdominal scars, like, I would never have gotten stretch marks if I hadn't had abdominal surgery, because the scars like pulled on my skin when I got pregnant. So then I got these wicked stretch marks everywhere, and it was just awful. And then I was going into the strip club and trying to work like that, and I wasn't making any money. And all of a sudden I was the gal who was coming home with like 50, 60 bucks a night. And I was just so angry all the time. Like, why the hell are these men not tipping? You know, why aren't they tipping me? I was a really good dancer at that point. Like, I was a fantastic pole dancer at that point in my life. I was extremely flexible. I was doing contortions on stage. I was doing circus level acrobatics on stage. Like, maybe not trapeze kinds of acrobatics, but I was doing contortions. I was doing various types of handstands. I was doing pole tricks in midair. I was definitely putting on a show, and I get like $1 for it. So I'd go on stage, I would absolutely bust my ass. I would put on a very, very acrobatic performance. And here's $1. Yeah, that was cool. And people would cheer. People liked it. They'd watch it and they'd cheer, they'd clap. If I did something particularly crazy, they'd scream. They were definitely watching, they were definitely paying attention. They just never seemed to make that connection between watching and being very absorbed in the performance and taking their hand and picking up the $1 and putting it on the stage. And that never used to be a problem for me. And at some point my husband came to me because he and I had an agreement. I already knew because I'd watched other women. Women aren't always good at picking out that time when they're just not as good as they used to be. And they're getting too old to do it. And I knew that was going to happen to me one day because I wasn't going to be young forever. And I told him really early on, I trust you and I love you. And when that time comes for me, I want you to tell me, because I want it to be somebody that I love telling me, and not somebody who doesn't give a shit about me. I don't want some asshole in a strip club telling me that I'm so old and wrinkly he just doesn't want to see my naked ass anymore. I want someone to be kind to me because I know it's going to sting. And he did. He took me aside and he was like, look, maybe you just shouldn't go to work anymore. We have this second kid. Just don't go anymore. You're not earning as much anyway. Maybe it's time to call it. And it really stung. Like, it really hurt because I loved my job and I didn't want to give my job up. I loved going into work and I loved getting paid to basically go to the gym and do acrobatic shit on a stage. Like, that was awesome. And I loved so much about my job, and I was too old and I had to let that go. And I remember the anger. I remember the frustration, but thank God I wasn't really angry at the other dancers. Like, yeah, some of them got paid more, and yeah, it was really annoying when like a girl that I would talk to would make like $2,500 in one night. And I'd be sitting there with my meager little $60, like, wow, shit, I'm jealous. And I mean, that was it. I would look at them, I'd say straight to their face, I am jealous, man. That is really good for you. Congratulations. I'm super jealous. I didn't have those moments where I was like, well, she's just a thought. She's just some hoe. She's just dumb or lesser than me. Thank God I didn't go that far. But then again, we weren't competing for the big game. We weren't doing this for keeps. We were just making a little bit of money at the end of the night. The big game is the one you take home and keep with you. The big game is the husband, the father of your future children that you want to have one day. That's the big game. And I got that when I was 23. I did that whole thing at the very peak of my prime. And so now that I'm older, it's like, okay, yeah, it hurts to get older. It hurts. It stings. You get angry when people start treating you a little differently. And, especially if it's money. Come on, I was trying to earn a living. I was working my ass off, damn it. It's just money. You can walk away from money. It's really hard to walk away from the dating market. So, I mean, I understand where she's at, but at the same time, it's not It's not the men who are turning her down. It's not their fault. And it's not the pretty girls who just want to make fake Instagram stories or whatever. It's not their fault either. They're just doing their thing. They're just living their lives. It's not their fault at all. And they're not lesser than her. And they're definitely she would hate this, but they're definitely not less sophisticated than she is. They're definitely not less substantial than she is. Because when I was 21 and I was getting the shit treatment from all the older ladies at the strip club, I wasn't dumber than they were. I wasn't less sophisticated than they were. I wasn't just vapid and stupid and empty. They thought that I was. They wanted to think I was. They wanted to think I was a horrible, evil, awful person. No, I was just at a different stage in my life. I think I've experienced this like with one guy that I dated once, like when I first started dating. And it was because he hadn't gotten over his ex who looked nothing like me. And then he found another girl who looked exactly like his ex. And so, you know where that went. He knocked her up and that was the end of it. Also, I was doing that whole committed to being a virgin till marriage thing, which really didn't help me. Like, I talk about my first boyfriend. He wasn't my first boyfriend. He was the guy that I went on a couple dates with who then spaced out on me and then ghosted. When a guy does that, it's not his fault. He just lost interest. You lost his interest. That's why that's happening. It's not because he's a guy who doesn't know how to be a man or he doesn't understand how to be consistent. Men can be very consistent if they feel motivated to be. He's just not motivated to be. Like, how is this something that she's saying men need to do? Like, if he wants to be consistent, he'll be consistent. If he doesn't want to be consistent, that means you're not holding his attention. That's a you problem. Anytime I hear a woman saying something like that, I immediately think, okay, she's extremely aggressive and possibly bitchy. And that's probably not the fairest assumption for me to jump to, but it is a very consistent thing that I've seen because I see it in dancers all the time, you know. I'm a very direct communicator. And then they go on to be just really, really bitchy and commandeering around everyone they meet. And they don't necessarily even notice that they're just pushing people away from them, like, aggressively. I remember dancers, they thought they were really good at talking to men, and they were just super, super hyper aggressive around men. And men kind of just put up with them and didn't seem to really like them very much because you had to walk on eggshells around them and you couldn't just relax and have a good time with them. They were too damn aggressive. And, you know, if you want to be super duper aggressive, that's fine, but you're not going to attract a man that way. A man wants to relax and have fun. You know, if he wants to be aggressive, he'll go like wrestling with other dudes or something. He'll find some really sweaty, masculine kind of violent sport and go do that with another guy or a bunch of other guys, a couple teams of other guys. You know, they go out and do that. If he wants to relax and have a good time, he'll hang out with a woman. You know, that's what strip clubs are for. I mean, yes, there's naked tits and ass, but it's also, I want to relax, I want to drink a beer, I want to have some tits rubbed in my face, and I want to have a good time. Men go to women to relax and just exist for a little while. I think that's what a lot of men really just want. They don't need a woman who's constantly, I'm a direct communicator. It screams to me, I'm going to tell you how I want things to go, and you're going to do it. And that's not relaxing to anybody. How many really awesome guys has she just kind of flushed because they didn't jump through hoops the way she wanted them to? Like, I mean, this is coming from me. I met approximately 2,500 men before I met my husband. Met, not slept with. Some people interpret that as slept with. No, met. I didn't want to sleep with all of them. No, just no. But I met a lot of guys, and I turned down a lot of guys. Like, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. Again and again and again, night after night after night. Like, I'm just not feeling it. I'm sorry. I was way too picky. It's bad when I'm complaining about somebody else being too picky here. Like, I can almost guarantee you that is her being a bitch, and that is her being difficult, and her standards are probably a little bit too exacting to be realistic. Okay, she worked for high standards and high expectations. So did I. I went to the strip club and I got myself in shape. I lost a bunch of weight. I put on a lot of muscle tone, and so I had the nice hourglass figure going. I had, good toned muscles, so I looked like I was healthy and athletic and very fit, but not super athletic, like not weird bodybuilder, kind of crazy athletic, but, athletic, healthy. I grew my hair out at the time. Like I had hair, longer hair, much longer hair. I learned how to flirt with men. I learned how to talk to men. I learned the value of smiling at men. Like I always kind of knew it, but the more I danced, the more it became apparent to me. Women who smile at men get a lot more attention from men. And I knew that in a monetary sense, but it became a habit for me. You smile at people, you act friendly, you act nice, you act pleasant, you act feminine. I worked at that stuff. I worked really hard. I worked for my high standards and my expectations. You know, my high standards, of course, were I want a guy who's smarter than me. I want a guy who's not a raging alcoholic. I want a guy who's not a drug addict. I want a guy with, a little bit more ambition than all the other guys in this town who just want to spend the rest of their lives sitting around here chugging beer and doing nothing. So basically, just a little bit more ambition than me. That's what I want. I want a hypergamously pleasing male, just a little bit more than what I got going on. That's what I wanted. Those were my high expectations. They were apparently they were painfully high because I did meet 2,500 men before I finally found one I liked. But I worked hard for my high expectations. I didn't work hard the way she worked hard for her high expectations. She thinks that having a big job and being kind of famous and making a lot of money and being, career woman, she thinks that's going to impress a guy. That's not going to impress a guy. That's really not going to do it. I had my own ambitions. I had my own goals. I had things that I was doing on the side. You dance at night and you have the entire day to pursue your own interests and ambitions. And I was doing that. But I didn't think any of that was going to make me extra sexy to a guy. I mean, I was hoping that there was a guy out there in the world who would look at my ambitions and my goals and my dreams and my projects and say, okay, she's weird, but I like it. As opposed to all the other guys who looked at me like, she's weird and I don't understand why she's so bookish and it's not a good thing. And yes, that did happen. There were guys who just wanted me to shut up. And we didn't last very long because they wanted me to shut up. I didn't expect that to add value to me. I expected that to actually take away value from me. I need to find a guy who can accept my level of weirdness and somehow thinks that my level of weirdness is outweighed by my level of sexual hotness. Raw sexual hotness must be higher than my weirdness level. She's looking at all her additional things in her life that are probably significantly detracting from her overall raw sexual hotness. And she thinks that those are a plus. They're really, really not. She's talking about all the guys who are messaging her, trying to find out how they can find a woman like her or get together with a woman like her. And I think this is part of the reason that I'm making this video in the first place, because a lot of red pill guys looked at it and said, Tomi Lahren is what the TradCon woman really is. This rant right here is what's really hiding under that TradCon exterior. And I mean, I think I've already talked about that in this video. Maybe I'm editing it out because I'm trying to keep this brief-ish. But like that's not what a TradCon woman really is like. Like this is a TradCon facade that is very rapidly cracking. A TradCon woman is going to want to be submissive to a man. She's going to want to have a man take charge and be in charge and be the leader. It doesn't make a woman weak or wimpy to want the man to take the leadership position. A good leader always benefits from a good second in command. That's leadership 101. If your team is good, you're off to a very good start. But she talks like a ball buster. She talks like somebody who wants to take charge. She has all these rules that she wants men to jump through and all these hoops she wants men to jump through. You know, I don't know how many of the men who message her asking, well, what would it take to be with a girl like you or one of your friends? When they're messaging her that, do they think that she is a tradcon woman? Like, I'm sure most of them are just messaging her because she's, you know, hot, pretty, whatever. They wanna get together with a girl like that. And so like, hey, what would it take to be with a girl like you? They're probably flirting with her in the process too. Like, if I can't be with a girl like you, if I can't be with you, I'd like to be with a girl like you, but I really want to be with you. I'm sure that's what a lot of them are doing. But I'm sure there are a lot of guys out there who think that because she's a conservative, and I haven't watched a lot of her stuff, but because she's a conservative, they probably also think that she's into this whole marriage, housewife, family, kids, you know, they think that she's into that. I would not be at all surprised that at least a few of the guys messaging her think that that's the package that they're getting. That's the package deal. That's not the package deal with Tomi Lahren. That's becoming very abundantly apparent in this video. That's not what she's about. She's got her job. She's got her standards. She's got her value. She's not going to want to get down on her knees and clean up the spilled food all over the floor, the spilled baby food. She's not going to want to waste her time changing a bunch of diapers. She's not going to want to waste her valuable time doing the lowly and menial things that housewives do. That's not what she's thinking about. That's not her game plan. You know, she can be as conservative as she wants to be politically. She really doesn't strike me as a tradcon woman in this video. Like, and this is a rant, and I in fairness to Tomi Lahren, at this point in time, she's really, really angry. She's really, really frustrated. She's really, really emotional. She is female, so she's probably running on emotions instead of logic. I'm female. We all do it. I get it. I get it. You're mad and you're venting. I get it. It's probably not very smart to be venting quite so publicly. And she's been thinking about this for, what did she say, 2 weeks now? So she's been considering doing this vent, and she's probably been weighing it for a while because she knows that it's kind of not a good idea. But she did it anyway. And so now it's out here. It's on the internet. It's never going to go away. I think she's just greatly lessened her chances of dating success. I'm pretty sure she's going to regret this video in the future, very, very near future, if she does not already deeply regret it. Because sooner or later, the truth is going to start coming back to her. The responses, the replies, people's ideas, people's opinions, people's interpretations, and nothing in this video looks very flattering on her. You know, I don't know what kind of a person she is normally. I don't know what her public persona is as a political commentator, so maybe she has that ball buster persona, and maybe this is just a continuation of that ball buster persona, which is great when you're talking politics, but it's really not good when you're talking dating. And this doesn't look good on her. None of this video is flattering to her. None of this video makes her look like a good candidate for a date. I cannot think of any guy who's going to want to date her after watching this video. And that's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate for her. I mean, it's a great red flag for all the guys who were thinking that she was the gal they wanted to go out with. You know, warning, bright red flashing warning lights, like really, really warning. I personally just kind of have a little bit of a problem with the guys who are looking at it and saying this is what all tradcon women are like. Like, this is a tradcon woman who failed to be tradcon. This is a woman who claimed to be tradcon, who purported to be tradcon, who passed herself off as tradcon, who's definitely conservative, at least politically. This is not what tradcon looks like. Tradcon is 27, 28, whatever she is. Big, fat, round, with, you know, pregnant, like already married, already out of the game, already cashed in her chips and said, all right, this is what I want, this is where I'm going. I have my man. I'm following him. I've got, baby number 1 over there playing, and I've got baby number 2 just brewing away in here. I feel like a walrus, and I'm happy and yet remarkably fat and uncomfortable. That's what TradCon looks like at 27, 28 years old. That's where I was, 27, 28 years old. I was big and round and fat, and I didn't look particularly attractive. I was trying my best, but I was big and round and fat. Um, I was happy. I was really, really happy. I'm still happy, actually. Like, I have my 3, really want a 4th. Probably not going to happen at this point. We're trying, but, we've had 2 failures in a row, so I'm not holding my breath. I did the thing. If you're 27, 28, and you're giving a rant like that, you failed to do the thing. You didn't do it. You didn't cash in the pretty while you had the pretty readily at hand. And now you're going to have to make sacrifices, and you're going to have to make compromises. And you realize it, and you're angry, and you're upset, and you don't really know what's going on. Because who tells women these days? Like, seriously, who goes to women and says, hey, by the way, now that you're 22, 23, 24, and you're really, really sexy, now is the time to find that guy and latch onto him. Now is not the time to be sitting around going, oh, he's great and he's wonderful and he makes me happy and I feel fulfilled, but could I do better? If he's great and he's wonderful and you feel happy and you feel fulfilled, go for it. That's the one. You don't want to constantly be doing the second guessing game. I mean, I understand the second guessing game definitely has a place, especially when you're in those early 20s where it's like, he makes me kind of happy, but can I spend the rest of my life with him? No, I really couldn't. And I had a guy like that. I was the alcoholic where it was like, he's really cozy and I really like him, but we don't have anything in common. We can't really talk. There are things about me that I'm not willing to show to him because I don't feel comfortable with him accepting me for who I am as a person. Not just sexually, just in my life. That weirdness meter is just going to turn him off a little too much, I think. I don't think this is the guy. Like, I like him. I really like him. I don't think this is the guy. I can't see myself making a life with this one. Better move on to the next one. Hope for better luck. Better keep looking. Just keep looking until you find a guy who's good. She failed to do that. She failed to do all of that. This is not what TradCon looks like. Just telling you guys. And I've met TradCon women who were in their late 30s, I think. 38-ish, I think. Who were looking to find a husband. And the TradCon woman in particular that I'm thinking of, she was, I'm going to say 38. I could be wrong. She had never been much of a dater because she was really hyper-conservative Christian. And she finally started breaking out of her shell and trying to date guys. And she was a little frustrated because she was running up against all those barriers 38-year-old women run up against, where it's like every single guy here is either divorced with kids, he's been married, he's just a player, he's not taking this seriously. She was struggling. She was definitely struggling for a good long while. But she was extremely feminine. She was extremely sweet. She had a PhD. She was really bookish. She was a very feminine woman. She was very conservative Christian. She just had never really gotten out of her shell up until that point where it's like, oh my God, I've really put this off too far. It wasn't like she'd been riding the cock carousel. She hadn't been dating a million dudes. She went on her first couple dates with these guys and she's learning how to kiss a guy on a date, and she's letting them know this. It's not as much of a turnoff. Like, it's not good. She wasn't in a good situation. She wasn't angry. She wasn't blaming younger women. She and I used to chat. She was a very pleasant woman, and I'm very happy that she finally found somebody who was good for her. And I never see her anymore because he was on the other end of the country, and she jumped on it because she didn't have the kind of options she might have had when she was 23. And she found a good man, and it was like, okay, this is it. Great. Wonderful. She wasn't angry. She wasn't blaming men. She realized that she'd put it off too far. And she was very humble, and she was very sweet-natured about it. That's TradCon. That's what TradCon looks like when they missed the prime party years, when they didn't manage to cash in right then and there. They're not super angry. They're not raging at men. They're not blaming men for all of it. They're looking and saying, okay, I think I screwed up. How do I fix this? What do I do? I'm a little scared. I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm going to try and make this work. That's what TradCon looks like, in case you're wondering. That's what true TradCon looks like. This, not the same thing. This is a woman who's failed, and she's starting to realize it. Okay, that right there is very telling. You can handle a woman like me. You can handle a woman like me. You can take the fact that I'm super aggressive and ball busting and not. That's the truth. That's the little tiny, the little pinhole of light that's shining through the darkness. That's it right there. I'm aggressive. She knows. On some level or another, she knows. She's starting to realize that men are turned off by it. They're turned off by my aggression. They're turned off by my direct communication. They're turned off by me. I need a man who can handle a woman like me, a woman of value like me. She's a little too arrogant. She's a little too aggressive. She makes a lot of rules, and she demands that men follow, in step. And men don't want it. They're turned off. That's why they're not consistent, as she complains about earlier. They're inconsistent because she's too aggressive, and they start looking for the door. They want to leave. They want to find some Tatiana, as she calls them, some younger woman who's not going to tell them what to do and how to do it and when to do it and why to do it. They just want to have fun. They want to relax. Again, I sound like a broken record. As far as I can tell about men, and this seems to be true from everything I've heard about men since I started reading all this red pill stuff, men want to relax and have a good time with a woman. They don't want to fight. They don't want to battle. They don't want to have to handle you. They just want to, relax, have a good time. She knows on some level. And she thinks that she just needs a type. And maybe she does. Maybe it's that simple. Maybe she just needs the type of man who can really handle an aggressive woman. And maybe there are some men who are up for that kind of challenge, but I don't know how many there are out there who really want to wrangle in a feisty lady when they could have a lady who's, fun, energetic, playful, not a handful, not super aggressive. Women can be, feisty as long as they're not directly feisty at their man. It's okay to be a serious ball buster. Okay? If she's got her public persona and she goes on TV and makes political commentary, and I've not really watched her political commentary. I'm assuming this is her public persona here. If she makes political commentary like that, heavy-duty ball buster, hardcore, aggressive, tough woman, she can do that as long as that's her public persona. And when she goes to see her man, she drops the persona and she acts sweet and, affectionate and playful and, kind of puppyish, she acts feminine. She's happy to see him. She's glad that he had the time to see her, instead of vice versa. That's the only way to make it work. You can be a ball buster to everybody else, but you cannot be a ball buster to your man, or you won't have a man. Nobody deserves anything. Nobody has this automatic, well, I deserve this. There is none. It gets annoying when men feel that they deserve to have sex with you after a date. Well, it gets really annoying when women feel that they deserve to have a man put up with their crap when they're shelling out crap at him all the time. This is a lady who is setting herself up for spinsterhood. I'm pretty convinced at this point. This is where she's going. I don't know if she realizes this is where she's going, but this is where she's going. Cold day in hell. One of two things is going to happen. Number one, she's going to eat those words and it's not going to feel very good. They're not going to go down so well. Or she's not going to eat those words and she will be a lonely spinster. Those are the two things that are going to happen. That's how this works. Like when I met my husband, I was like, okay, I don't really have any really close ties in this town. So if you want to move to another country where I don't even speak the language, yeah, I'm down for that. I'll follow you. Sounds like an adventure. I'd be willing to do that. If you want me to drop everything I have going on here, that's cool with me. I can do that. I will do that for you. I I totally put my life on hold when I met the one I wanted to keep. You know, you finally meet one that's good, and it's like, okay, all my plans are canceled. You know, this is important. Getting married, finding a mate, finding a good mate, that's important. That's a priority. And if you don't make it a priority, and she doesn't want to make it a priority, you know, I take my makeup off and I'm done for the day. She's not making it a priority. You know, she's saying it's a cold day in hell, she'll chase a man. Okay, it's not a priority for you. And if it's not a priority for you, well, it's not going to happen. You're going to be single for a really, really, really long time. And there it is. She sounds like a full-blown feminist at this point. Like, this is the point where she's made the complete transformation from conservative political commentator to total feminist. This is the point where the transformation is absolutely complete. She's no longer Tomi Lahren. She has bright purple hair and she's yelling at men. This is the absolute point where it really shows through, because this is exactly the sort of thing that you would expect to hear from a feminist who's complaining that men just they can't handle all this, woman. You can't handle all of this. And you know, who would want to? Who would want to? She's a handful. Who'd want to have to handle all of that? You know, when would they ever relax? When would any guy who deals with that ever be able to relax? And for all I know, Tomi Lahren is a very lovely person who likes puppies. I don't really like puppies. Like, I like puppies, but I don't like puppies. They're okay at a distance. I like that other people have puppies. I don't like them myself. So I always qualify that as like a good person thing. Like, oh, and they like puppies too. That's awesome. They're a better person than me. For all I know, she's a better person than me. But she really doesn't look it here. She's really not showing that here in this video. This video is not a pretty side of Tomi Lahren. Whatever else she might have going on in her life that makes her look good, this is not it. She's aggressive, she's controlling, she's too much for men to handle, and she's too oblivious to the fact that all this stuff that she says is a plus, is a virtue on her side of the fence. All of that is actually driving men away from her. And she can't see it. She thinks that this is good stuff that she's got going on. She thinks she thinks she's got it all. She thinks she's got what men want, and she is actively driving men away. And every once in a while, that little pinhole of truth, this little teeny bit of light shining through in the darkness, kind of comes out, and it's like every once in a while, it starts to just sort of peek through. Men can't handle you. You are too much for men to handle. And right now, she's looking at it like, well, that's a problem with men. And maybe at some point in the future, she'll finally gain enough insight to realize, oh no, that's not a problem with men, that's a problem with me. I am not being attractive to men. I might look attractive to men, but I am not acting attractive to men. And my actions are what is driving men away from me. It's not a problem with men. None of this video is a problem with men. I don't see any problems with men here. I see men reacting to situations that she's putting him into, and they're looking at it and saying, yeah, I don't want to have to deal with this. And they're checking out. That's not a problem with men. Men don't want to be uncomfortable in relationships. They don't want to be miserable in relationships. They don't want to constantly have their balls busted in relationships. They don't want to be henpecked in relationships. Nobody really wants that. Especially not men, who are much more inclined to take a leadership position in a relationship. They really don't want the person who's supposed to be their second command, who fits into that second command place with most men. That's where most women belong. They don't want that woman telling them what to do, telling them what their schedule needs to be, telling them what time they need to come and meet her, telling them that she doesn't want to have to spend any time or energy on them because she's better than that. You know, you can be a commanding woman. You can be a ball buster. You can be aggressive. You cannot do it with your man. Don't do that. Don't do that and expect it to fly, because you will be lonely and single for a really long time if you do that.